Welcome to Season 2 of The Shift, Stories of Resistance and Resilience, a multi-platform conversation series produced and hosted by me, Mark Travis Rivera, the professional storyteller. I believe that stories have the power to change the world. Through honest conversations and powerful storytelling, we explore how people challenge systems, shift narratives, and transform culture, creating a more inclusive, just, and liberated world in our lives and in our work. Here on this podcast, you'll hear from changemakers, truth tellers, and community builders who are using their voices and their stories to move us forward. So if you believe in the power of storytelling to spark change, you're in the right place. Listen closely, take notes, recognize our shared humanity. This is The Shift. Hey y'all, I am so excited for Season 2 premiere of The Shift. We've been recording episodes in batch recording, but I knew as I began reading this book of the author who's on the show, Season 2 premiere guest, I knew that I had to start this season with today's guest. When I tell y'all he's not paying me to say this is totally not an ad. This is my true testimonial. This is one of the most beautiful books I've read on life and death and everything in between. And y'all know I'm a storyteller and I love a good book. And he reads the audiobook, which I really appreciate. But before we jump into the official book, I just have to say, if you take nothing away from this conversation today, and you will take a lot out of it, I promise you, take this away. Go and order this book, preferably from an independent bookstore. Listen to the audiobook, get it on Audible, wherever you stream your audiobooks from, because Darnell Lamont Walker reads it. It is beyond beautiful, and we'll go into it more. But if nothing else, stop this episode wherever you're watching it, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, Google, Spotify. Pause this episode, go order the book, and then come back and listen to the episode. Because you're going to want to read this and listen to this conversation. It's listen to it first, then get the book. Either way, do both, and be sure to share this with the folks in your life. Today's guest is the amazing, truly terrific, awkwardly cool Darnell Lamont Walker, who is a death doula, an Emmy-nominated children's television writer, producer, and explorer. Born in Charlottesville, Virginia, he creates spaces worldwide for healing through storytelling, end-of-life care, and workshops on grief, resilience, unlocking the writer within, and radical empathy. He joyfully lives in the Chattahoochee National Forest of North Georgia, and he's our Season 2 premiere guest. Darnell, welcome.
Thank you
Y'all,
so much.
Darnell is on his book tour right now, and he's been gracious enough to stop and pause for the book tour to do this interview. So thank you so much for being a guest on The Shift, Stories of Resistance and Resilience. I couldn't think of a better person to kick off Season 2 than you.
No, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I love your show.
Thank you.
We finally met, and I mean, I'm so glad to be here. I also wonder what you would have said had I paid you to say that. But no, thank you so much. I am really honored to be here. There's nowhere I'd rather be right now. So
Yeah. Darnell and I got to meet in person for the first time because I got connected with you on Instagram, and like most times, I was audacious and reached out to him and like, hey, you have this book coming out. Hey, I think you'd be a great guest on this show. Would you be willing? And of course, you were gracious enough to say yes. And then I saw that you were doing a book tour in Atlanta, and I was like, oh, I have to go. And of course, I'm never late to things, y'all. Like anyone who knows me knows I'm type A. I'm always either early or on time. I'm never late. That day, it was like something within the cosmos because I broke a nail. There was so much traffic. Almost got into a car accident in the Uber on the way to your book event.
Oh my
And so I
God.
ended up being almost an hour late. And I was like cringing on the inside because I'm just like, I'm never late. Like, that's not what I do. But then I realized that the first part of the event was the moderated Q&A conversation with you and your friend who was interviewing you for the event. And I'm almost glad that I missed that part because I didn't want her questions to or your answers to shape my questions. But I got to experience the deaf cafes that we did, and we'll talk about that a little bit today. And I was like so thankful that we had this conversation scheduled because I was like, oh, I want to ask all these questions. And so let's jump in. You mentioned a lot of your professional highlights in your bio, but who are you outside of those things? Because who are you as a person in your personal life?
Yeah, I love fun, I love adventure, I love excitement and food. And I love to say that I have this passport into different cultures and lives, and people allow me to come in. So I love I'm curious. I'm a very curious person. And so, and an observer. And so any chance I get to just sit and observe and be witnessed as well, I take that. I travel a lot for that purpose, because there are so many lives on the other side of the world. There, how the moon rises over here, or the sun, or um, just who am I here in this place? And so as that curious person, I love to learn more about me too. I don't think we ever stop learning that, and so I get to do that hopefully every day, a little bit every day, when I get to meet new people and have new experiences. And so I think that's who I am. I always say, you never know. You gotta ask your neighbor who you are, and these people who know you, but you can kind of know yourself.
Yeah.
And I actually love that. I love so many different things. So when people say, oh, I thought you were a death doula. Oh, I am. Oh, but you write for kids too? Yeah, I do that too. Oh, but I saw you were cooking this 8-course meal for some people at your house. Yeah. I want to be a chef also. So I'm all of those things.
As we say, you're multi hyphenate. Okay.
That's talk about it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. You're also a father, which surprised me. I don't think I knew that. And um, I have been reading his book. Y'all have ADHD, so reading takes me a lot longer now, and I have to do the audiobook and then I have to do the physical books at the same time and take notes and all these things. And so I was really stressed out about like, will I be able to read this book in 3 weeks' time? And today I had listened to the last chapter, and I'm not gonna tell you, I'm not gonna ruin it, but it didn't end the way I thought the book would end.
Mm.
Um, and this book is part self-help, part memoir, part biography because you're writing about other people
Mhm.
and their lived experience through your lens, it's your POV, your point of view. And I just never read a book quite like this. And it was, you know, never can say goodbye. The life and death the life of a death doula and the art of a peaceful end. And the last chapter revealed some things about you. One, that you're a father, that you have a
Mhm.
son, and that you live with a condition that you know nearly could have killed you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I had to name that as part of your other identities because I think that some people may not know that about you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and also informs how you show up.
No, absolutely. It's one of those. Well, my son for sure, and it's so odd. Like these things happen at the same around the same time. When I found out that I have a blood clotting condition that could literally kill me at any moment, um, is when my then girlfriend was pregnant with my son, and so and the day that I was able to walk again was the day we were both wheeled into this hospital. She went into labor, and we were both pushed in a wheelchair into the hospital. Um, and it does show, it does inform like and shape how I live my life. It's you know, I always say we'd all be so fortunate to have the threat of death hanging over us because it forces us to make different decisions. Um, it forces us to answer that question: if you had a day to live, or if you were going to die tomorrow or die next year, what would you do differently? How would you live the rest of this year? And so
Mm,
it forces us to answer that. I mean, I love it. It's like this is the life that I want. The life I'm living is the life I've always wanted for myself.
mm,
Um, and I know that it's because of that. And I think some of the proof of that is in the book. I talk about, I had a client who
ah,
was going to get was going to have surgery, and there was a chance that she was not going to survive. And so she was like, "Oh, well, if this is it, these are the things I need to do with my life. I need to spend more time with family. I shouldn't be at this job. I should do this and this and this." And that's what she did. She started living this life she wanted, and it was a beautiful and rich life, you know. And then the surgery came, and it went, and she survived. And then, you know, we catch up, and she fell back into that pattern of,
Okay.
you know, and it's like, if only that threat had stayed, you know, you know, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
And I hope that it's not a clot that kills me. But and strangely, I can think of 4 friends off the top of my head who died from a blood clot who didn't have the condition, you know?
Mm.
And so, you know, it might be the thing that kills me, but I hope it's not. And if it is, I hope it comes when I'm ready. But
Yeah.
whenever it comes, I know that I've lived the best possible life that I could have right now.
Yeah. Man. Whew. I have so many thoughts and feelings, but I want to get to this next question before we jump back into the book.
Yeah.
I feel like we have not addressed the collective grief and trauma caused by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Can you share what happens when we don't express our grief?
No, absolutely. You know, whew.
We're starting off heavy. We're not even.
Yeah. Because you know, I was in New York when COVID was down, and you know, we're talking ground zero for the U.S. at least. And so I saw those trucks driving up the street with bodies on them, you know, going to unmarked graves. I witnessed that. I remember being in Times Square. I remember riding my bike. I lived in the Bronx at the time, and I would do like a 30-mile loop, and at least 3 days a week. And I remember, and early on, I was riding my bike, and I got to this one corner, and it had probably been 6 miles, and I didn't see one person. Wow. And I saw someone standing on a corner. It was a cop, and I just go over and check on him. I'm like, "How are you? How have you been in all this?" And he's like, "Yeah, you know, I'm just out here just guarding the streets." And I'm like, "Okay." And then I look up and I see billboards, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm in Times Square," and would not have known because there was no one. There were 2 people in Times Square, me and the cop. So I remember that.
I remember it was so trippy because I used to live in New York too. I was in the Heights.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I was on 169, but I left right before the pandemic to California. So California was the opposite. We were extremely shut down. And I remember going back to New York shortly after the pandemic was kind of underway, and it feeling so deserted and being right at Penn Station. And Penn Station, commuting from New Jersey in the beginning before moving to New York, it was always such a hot spot. And I remember walking around and thinking to myself, this is not New York. This is not the New York I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it felt eerie. There was something very eerie about a quiet.
It was a quiet city. Like I was driving down, you know, Park Avenue and Broadway for miles on my bike, and it was just me.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, this will never happen again. You know, at least in my lifetime, and hopefully never.
Yeah.
But you know, so thank you for that question, because we haven't, at least in the ways we need to collectively. But you know, when we don't express our grief, you know, it doesn't disappear. It just finds another place to live in us. You know, and it could show up as anger, as disconnection, as numbness, or feeling that even that's small feeling that something is off right now, right? And so it's like stress. You know, it manifests in so many different ways. I remember I thought I had like a sore throat once, and my throat was so tight. And then I had to stop and think, and I was like, oh, no, I've been stressed the last 2 weeks. And, you know, grief can show up like that. And in ways that we can't name. We don't really have language for that, and we haven't given language for that. I mean, the pandemic kind of brought out a level of collective loss that many of us have never experienced before. Yeah. And so we haven't made space to acknowledge that, and we carry it alone in many cases the way we carry all grief, and a lot of times we carry it alone, and that's not what grief. That's not how grief is meant to be carried.
Yeah.
Um, what it should do is connect us to one another. But what happens is we we forget also that other people experience that,
Yeah.
and so it's grief is tricky that way, and so we go off to our hole and cry alone and remember alone, and when we should be talking about it, and thankfully people are realizing that and making it happen. I did a workshop last year, in 2025, about the collective grief we were carrying from COVID.
Yeah.
Um, and it was like, and it was a breath that we needed. And I did it with the great friend Yolanda, who came, and we were able to do movement with it, and mindfulness and meditation. And it was just a beautiful moment of bringing people together to grieve the way we should.
Yeah. In my excitement to ask you that question, I skipped over the second question, which I have to go back to. We ask every guest this question.
Please.
But I want to say, there's something about him being back in office, Trump 2.0, that has brought up a lot of grief from that time for me, because he so mishandled the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And he cost people their lives. And there was so much disinformation and misinformation. And it was like, I think the pandemic would have been bad under any president.
Yeah.
But I think that there were lives lost that could have been saved had we had different leadership. And so, this podcast, this series, The Shift, started as a LinkedIn audio series in 2023 when I launched my business full-time, went to full-time creative entrepreneurship, as a way to kind of share stories of from leaders and activists and artists and community members and just people about what it means to belong, what it means to be human. And I think that we live in a time when we stop talking to each other to hear each other's stories, but rather we now talk to condemn or judge.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about your book is that it forced me, the reader, to stop and to think about people I will never meet.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people you talk about, one of your, I don't know if you call them clients or one of the people that you death doulaed for, was the Muslim man. I'm forgetting his name, but his family would not bury him with dignity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that actually, when I remember crying, I was washing my dishes, and because I don't want to be buried in a box, I want to be cremated.
Mm-hmm.
And reading that, I was like, oh my gosh, as a gender non-conforming man who would never want to be buried in a suit or in a box to begin with, I would haunt the fuck out of my relatives, if they ever did that to me. Like, if they ever didn't let me die in my own terms. And like you, I'm not necessarily ready to die yet in a practical sense, which your book also talks about. And so I'm working on my obituary right now. I'm creating this like living will, and like making sure that all my affairs are in order, so that something does happen to me as a speaker, as someone who travels quite a bit for work, that my team members and my friends and family will know what to do with this home I've built for myself in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And my best friend Daniel, who I got a signed copy of your book to give to him, he said thank you, by the way, who's also, he and I were talking about your book, and we both got weepy-eyed and cried together as we were talking about death. But it wasn't the, oh my God, someone died tears. It's the, there was a level of intimacy that he and I was sharing in that moment. That's about what it means to truly love and care for someone after their death, because he's going to be the person to help deconstruct this home I've built, that he helped me build, right? Because he helped put all the stuff. I don't do manual labor. I just project manage, and so he's very handy with the tools and all that. Like, it's only fair that the person who put everything up,
somebody's doing it.
I can also trust that he'll make sure that all these things that are of our value, that could be our value, go to the right people. And it was just such a beautiful thing to read this book, and there's so much about wanting to die with dignity. And I always told my mother, who is very afraid of the life I live as a career, because I travel so much, and I put myself in places where I'm often speaking to people who don't always agree with me. And I'm no Charlie Kirk level of speaker where like I would probably have someone do that, but anything is possible, right? This day and age. And I always said to her, if I die, I'd rather go out die living in my truth.
Yeah.
Let me go out in a fabulous outfit with some good set of nails, preferably a fresh set, and a beat face. If I want to go out, let me go out living in my truth,
Mhm.
I'd rather die living in my truth and because of my truth than live a lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's living a lie is not actually living.
It's
It's
hard. That's a hard life to live. And then what happens is, people want to share, like in our grief, we want to share our stories and our memories of you and can't or don't know how to,
Mhm.
because we want to protect those who didn't know you in that way,
Yeah.
and that's not fair to anyone,
Yeah.
and
And that's
so.
why I've been out since I was 14, actually.
Mhm.
Actually, the thing that propelled me forward in life was the death of my brother. It was
Okay.
grief. It was grief that brought me
Mhm.
out the closet, and it was the grief that made me want to get out the hood. It was the grief that made me want to start my dance company at 17. It was my grief that let me like have this hustle and this drive. And reading your book, oh, I said I was gonna cry. Reading this book brought up a lot of grief for me, and it it reminded me that I've been having a lot of grief in my life.
Mhm.
I've been losing friendships. Me and my lover broke up after 8 years of dating. Just there's been a lot of grief, and these people are not necessarily dead; they're still alive. But I'm grieving what they meant to me.
Mhm.
How I'm grieving a version of my mother that no longer exists, and she's
Mhm.
still very much alive. And it reminded me that grief isn't just about the thing we experience when someone dies, but grief is what happened when we recognize the life we thought we would have never will materialize.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. What was your brother's name?
Kamal, he's the name I brought into the event you had.
There we go. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a I had a I've always believed, but also had this very real experience recently where there was, I mean, it was just undeniable that, dead things can still support life. And I mean, that's a perfect example where, you lost your brother, but so much life has happened
Yeah,
because of that, and how that can shape just beautiful things that happen. But yeah, and also we do, that complicated grief
yeah,
where, you know, these people are still alive and still kicking, and we sometimes have to see them in some way, and it's like, where death is so, like, death loss is so much easier
yeah,
because it's, I know what to do with this.
yeah,
I don't know what to do with my dad who did whatever. I don't know what to do with my ex who did, and it's tough, but again, not meant to be done alone.
yeah,
you know
yeah. And I think that was so beautiful about your book launch event. For those of you, do you have any more tour dates before this episode drops on the 18th?
Yeah. After the 18th, before the 18th,
After, because
after the 18th,
the 18th.
yes. I'm going to San Diego for
So
the San
we'll
Diego
add those
Writers
dates.
Festival.
We'll add additional dates to the show notes so y'all can go.
For
You
sure.
have to go to his book launch events. I'm not sure. Are you in the Deaf Cafe at every stop or no?
No. That was it's
Okay.
we definitely have conversation where we are not having to go through things alone, but
Yeah.
so there's that feeling
Okay,
definitely.
yeah. So this book event, I don't know whether it was special because it was Atlanta, which is obviously the area where you live, or it
Mhm.
was just because of what you want to do in this particular space. But he did this thing. You did this thing where we were doing like the deaf cafes, where we moved around to different groupings and asked each other different questions.
Mhm.
And some of your friends were in the room, and they're like, "This is such a Darnell question." It had to do about like what would be like, what song would be playing,
Mhm. What's the last song you want to hear before you die?
or what's your last drink, or something about. There was something about Hennessy and lemon pepper wings or something. There was something about, I can't remember exactly what it was. There was a lot of conversations that night. But what struck me about that event was how diverse it was, both in terms of age, race,
Mhm.
sexuality, nationality, ability. And there are people who were even at the event who just felt the energy of the room and were drawn in and participated in some interaction with you.
Mhm.
And it was such an unconventional space. And everyone who I spoke to was like, I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Because there was so much laughter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there is something about laughter and communal being and gathering that made talking about the grief a lot easier.
Yeah, like what I did promise everyone when I made that event, and with all these events, what I promise everyone is that you know if we can just talk about the hard stuff, I promise we'll get to the laughter and the joy and the fun. And you saw how the night ended up. We were all just outside having a great time. Like, I mean, none of the event was like in conversation there. Heavy things came up, but we were together and
Yeah,
we talked about it. And people were just like, oh,
yeah.
so many times I heard people say, I've never shared this before,
Hmm.
to strangers. And it was like, yeah, because it's been just sitting in there and it's been trying to get out. And finally, and so to be able to provide a space for people to share without judgment, and in love is very important to me. And I mean, it's why I do this work, right? Like a big part of this work I do as a death doula, and a big part of me of what death doulas do, or at least what I do, is even for those dying, is to come in and create that space and say, listen, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah,
And whatever you need to feel, you can feel here.
yeah.
And,
Also, there's a story in the book, and I'm forgetting the person's name, so I apologize. I'm bad at names. I'm good at remembering stories, and so
Mhm,
that's how my storyteller brain works. But it's the person who always wanted to be a painter.
mhm,
You gave him canvas, and you had showed me that his wife had told you
mhm.
that after seeing you and working with you, that he began to paint more, and that
Yeah.
he left pieces behind, and
Yeah.
that he had chosen the safe route or the route his family expected him to take. I think he was some kind of engineer or some kind of like that one kind of. I'm forgetting all the details.
No,
So,
no, no, no. Yeah.
but I just remember being like, what I always told myself was, I never want to die with untold stories inside of me,
Mhm.
which is why I produced my first collection and called Drafts and Imperfect Collection of Writing with a foreword by Dr. Alicia Nicole Harris. And I wrote this came out in 2017. I'm currently working on book number 2, which is called
Good.
Revisions. So
Yeah.
installment number 2 of the trilogy is coming soon at the end of this year, most likely. And it was because I didn't want to die with these untold stories inside of me.
Yeah. Like that we have to get those things out, right? Like whatever that is. I remember hearing DJ Jazzy Jeff, and I've adopted it for myself since hearing it. But DJ Jazzy Jeff was talking to his friends, and someone was recording, and he's like, I want to die empty. He's like, if I put out an album and people just use that album to sweep up their trash, at least I got it out.
Yeah.
And then there's this letter that Martha Graham wrote to her friend Agnes DeMille, where she
Mm,
tells her to keep the channel open, and she says, it's not up to us to determine whether it's good or it's bad or whatever it is. It's not up to us to judge our own work. Our only job is to get it out, because
yeah.
if we don't, it will never exist
Yeah.
ever.
I always tell that to young creatives, especially because I think there's so many young people. I'm reaching my uncle era. I'm turning 35 this year. And there's this thing around so many younger artists I meet through my talks, through my master classes, through my work that say, I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's right enough. And I said, you're gonna produce a lot of shitty work before you produce something great.
Yeah,
I said, if you spent all your time thinking about is it good enough, you'll never do anything.
never. You'll
Our
never get it out.
job, our job as creatives, what makes us so special is that we can create something out of nothing, and that there's
Mhm.
nothing quite like it that exists before we do it.
Yep.
Even
You
if
are
it's
we
similar,
are mules. You
new.
know, we are mules. We have to do the work. We
Yeah,
are not, it doesn't
that's
have
what
to be
we create.
pretty.
That's why we're creatives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't need to be pretty or anything. You just have to put it out there. Like audacity. Like we as
oh,
creatives, how often have you seen something and you're like, how did this get made?
so
Mine is better than that. Okay, but yours isn't out.
right,
And this
right.
person had the audacity to say, I'm gonna do it.
Just like I had the audacity to slide into your DMs and be like, "Hey, do you want to be on my podcast?"
There we go. Right.
Other people this season coming out that are, also big names and also, I can't say who just yet, but I don't want to
Mhm.
jinx it. But we have some big names coming, people with like amazing work out there. Like people who I never thought in a million years would ever say yes to me, right? Because I'm a little nobody. In my world, I'm nobody. Like, my friends and family keep me real humble. And essentially, that's how I see myself. I am a nobody, but I'm a creative who just does the work. I just show up. And I'm audacious enough to slide into people's DMs and be like, hey, I heard you got this book coming out and it sounds interesting and I want to feature you. So what
But
is
you ain't nobody. You ain't nobody. But two, I hear you. But that same sentiment. I mean, make them say no. You know, like
what's the worst I can say? No? I'm an artist. I don't have to deal with rejection.
Move on. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I deal with rejection all the time as an artist.
Mhm.
It's the artist way. But I ask this of every guest. So what is your personal concept of resistance and resilience?
Oh, great question. Personal concept of resistance and resilience. I would say like my personal concept of resistance is like I feel like we're in this world that's asking us to be numb, right? And I think choosing against that, choosing tenderness in that world, is telling the truth about whatever it is we need to tell the truth about, speaking up for the things we need to speak up about rather than avoid the conversation. And so that to me is resistance, and it has always been to really just push back against what's the wrongs that are being asked of us. And resilience for me is about is about stopping. We have to stop pretending that we are unbreakable, and allow ourselves to break, allow ourselves to mourn, to just be curious people. I think, and it's hard. I don't say that not understanding that. I know that many of us don't know what's going to happen if we allow that. We don't know who's going to be on that other side to sort of put us back together. There's this Toni Morrison quote I love that's, she was a friend of mine. She finds all the broken pieces of me and she puts them back together. That's not all the way right, but that's the sentiment.
Wait, you saying Toni Morrison was a friend of yours?
No. I'm saying Toni Morrison's quote.
Oh, okay.
Oh, please believe I would have led the conversation.
No.
My title would be Darnell Walker, friend of Toni Morrison.
Iconic.
Friend of Toni.
Okay, sorry.
I think that's it. Like we have to,
like what?
We have to find those people though, man. Like we have to find those people who are going to put us back together. And if we don't have it, like, because I tell people this all the time, and out of the 10 people I tell, there may be 2 people who say, I don't have these people in my life. And I say, well, you being able to write that and you having that breath to say that means that you have time to find that community. Yeah. And so resilience exists in that community. I read this beautiful Substack last year where this woman talks about how she wants to go into a new relationship, but she's so afraid because of what happened in the last relationship. And she's telling her friends, and she's like, but if I go into this, she's like, I want to do it. I really like this guy, but this will destroy me. And a friend says, well, go be destroyed. We'll be here if it happens, and we will put you back together again. And it's like, we need people to say that. We need to hear it, not just, oh, my friends will do it. No, your friends need to say it. And so as people, we can help people be resilient by, verbally saying these things to them, writing it to them, however they need to know.
Yeah. And I have to say to you, as you say that, I think of one of my dear mentors and friends from undergrad, Chrissy. I used to cry all the time as a kid. I used to be able to express that. And as I've gotten older and life has gotten harder and things have gotten, somehow the tears don't come out as naturally as they used to. Mm-hmm. I remember the last few years, for some reason, it's because I know I can be safe and vulnerable around her. That I can be vulnerable around her and still be safe. Mm-hmm. The last few times I've had like a major breakdown, boohoo, crying, weeping, fall to my knees kind of cry. More recently, it was with her on the phone then a couple years ago in 2022. And I kept thinking about why she keeps being the person on the receiving end of that. Mm-hmm. And it's because she has known me when I was just a young college freshman, and she has witnessed my journey and has loved every version of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And has reminded me that I can do this, that I can get through these hard moments because I've done it already. I've shown
Absolutely.
her and myself and others that I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it is such a sorry, y'all. This damn neighbor's dog keeps barking, and I just hope
It's
you
fine. It's real. It's
hear
real.
him.
I heard him.
You see,
But it's fine. It's go. It's fine.
this is why I have an issue with animals in the
In general.
homes and in the apartment buildings on the second floors. It's like this dog is huge. He has no reason to bark at every little sound, and he's been living here too long to be doing all that nonsense. Anyway, don't come to me, you PETA animal lovers. I don't mistreat animals. I just have a thing about we have too many animals in this building, and I just can't. And I've told my neighbor, I was like, please play TV, play sound for him. Like he needs to get exposure because he can't be barking every time someone opens the back door or the front door
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. It's annoying. Anyway, sidebar. Sorry, I just like can't deal with the dog. But it was this safety and this vulnerability I felt with her, and she's never looked at me differently. She's never thought of me differently,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I've been around people where I thought I could be vulnerable with them, and it changed the way they saw me.
Yeah.
And what I realized was those people were not in relation with me to be in relation with me.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted access to me for what I could
Yeah.
offer them.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And
don't let that, don't let that stop you from
right. No. Yeah. You have to keep building those
go again.
connections.
You
Yeah.
do it again because that's who you are.
That's who I am. Yeah.
This is
That's
who I
who
am.
you are. You know,
People are like, oh, you let them play you. No,
know?
I showed up as me,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do that again.
They fumbled me. I didn't fumble.
Right there we go. I didn't mess up.
No, I didn't mess up. And I, there's so much I want to ask you. I know we're pressed for time, and I want to honor your time. But in your book, Never Can Say Goodbye, The Life of a Death Doula and An Art of a Peaceful End, you mention your grandmother and how your relationship with her led you down this path of being a death doula. And how now that you're in your older age than you were when you first was a child and was exposed to death in this way, how has your perspective on death evolved since you were a child?
Yeah. Now that I'm in my unk stage, I had to throw it in there. No, since I was a kid, I was exposed. Like my earliest memory was 9. Since then, I don't. I've become far more empathetic than I was. And like you said, in the intro, like radical empathy, and what I believe that is, and what I've known it to be is that I understand how people became who they became, and I understand it, and I feel it, and at the same time I can say I can still create borders around that and boundaries and whatnot, and so like from being a kid it was oh, this is what death is. There's an order to death, and old people die, and then we get older, and then we die, and then it keeps going in that direction. But no, that doesn't happen at all. I probably lost more friends than my parents have. And just how we care for each other, how grief shows up. How we still don't talk about it. I don't even believe we think we're going to die. And so as I grow, I see more and more of this, and just the regret, and how often compromise even turns into regret in the end. And so what I do now, at this age, is to make sure that the people I get to talk to and people who may listen in or may read will know that this is how so many people have ended, and they didn't want it in this way. This is just how the cards fell. It doesn't have to be you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to happen to you. You can plan. You can share. You can grieve yourself. You don't have to be the strong one. Like so many things that I accepted as a kid because it was I remember being 14 and Biggie died, right? And I'm 14. I'm like, well, he lived a full life. And then when I was 24, I was like, wait, Biggie died at 24? He was young. And now that I'm 44, I'm like, he was a baby, and it's like, oh, and so like those realizations come with age, where, at 22, even when I had the blood clots, it was up until then, it was, I'm 22, I'm invincible. No one dies at 22, and how that shaped me. But then just how now it's more about connections and who we are to other people and who they are to us. That's the thing that comes up in the end the most. And so trying to foster and recover those relationships too, even forgiving ourselves sometimes in that, is a lot of the work I do. Whereas a kid, it was still trying to find the language. I didn't even have the language for 95% of this stuff at 9. And even at 13, when I was volunteering at a hospice.
Yeah.
Still.
I also thought it was really fascinating. I was like, wow, of all the
Yeah.
things you could have done as a young volunteer, you chose to do that.
Not even, and it wasn't because it was a hospice. It was because my friends were working at Hardee's and I wanted the job too. So it was like, I could do this.
Yeah.
And it just so happened, looking back, I'm like, well, of course, this is where I end up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so fascinated by all of it. But I have to ask you this because in the book, you taught me a lot through this book around how to prepare for dying with dignity. Through various stories that you shared. But one of the things that you were adamant about was writing your own obituary. And writing a well-written obituary, one that truly encompassed. You had like a whole section of the book talking about this. Do you mind sharing an opening line or two of your current version of your obituary? And why is it important for you? Why do you think it's so important for us to have a good written obituary, or well-written obituary, I should say?
Well, I'll start with that. There's we lived, right? We lived life.
Yeah.
However hard it got, however smooth it went, whatever, we lived a life, and we deserve to have our stories told. We deserve to be remembered, and even if some of us still won't get to it, but there will be people in our lives who die, and if we have to write theirs, it's like I've seen what happens when we are able to remember a person's life through storytelling. You're a storyteller. Like what can happen with this. And because I remember when I years ago I did an obituary project and I started writing other people's obituaries, some who had been dead for 30 years. I said, send me your family's obituary. If it was bad, I'd love to make it better. And people started sending these bad obituaries. Then I'd interview the family, talk about that person, and then rewrite these obituaries. And they'd go from like a paragraph to 4 pages.
Wow.
And they're reading them and they're like, oh my God, yes. And you see this person that had, died decades ago come back to life for them, and in a way that they'd forgotten, and so if we can leave that behind, why wouldn't we? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't we do that? For me, I do have, hold on, where is it? It's right here.
You have a hard copy of it, or you have a digital?
No. I have.
Like, oh, gee.
I was trying to find this this whole setup I have.
Oh, okay.
Hold on, because I do have it on right here. Let me pull it up on my thing. You can edit this part out. Hold on.
Oh, it's fine. We keep it live.
This is perfect.
Authenticity is a core pillar of my business. So we unless it's a major edit, we don't even deal with it. Like I'm keeping the dog written in here because that's what it was in the real time.
Yeah. No. But like
or nasty ass text like, get your dog together. Please. Keep him
it's what's funny is that I put and this is for people who may I'm hoping everyone reads this book, not because I need money, because I've already been paid, but because I know how important this is. I've seen families like fall apart. I've seen,
Yeah.
the world end
Yeah.
when we don't do the work. And so I hope everyone reads it. But
Yeah.
so you will find a part of my obituary in there. And I put it in the chapter you talked about earlier, that I remember me.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
at the end of my obituary that will be published,
Yes.
currently, it will say, so here's what I want you to do now. I want you to go outside, feel the air on your skin, take a deep breath and hold it just for a second. Then let it out slowly. As you do, I want you to remind yourself that that breath was a gift, one that you could have missed but didn't. And now, with that awareness, I want you to live, really live. Jump into the ocean, take the trip, call the friend, make the move, say the thing. Do it all without waiting for the permission of some distant day in the future when it all feels safer. Because guess what? It never will be. And that's the point. Life is messy and unpredictable and wild, but it's also beautiful and sweet and so, so worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because my goal is that I just want people to be like, oh, because the obituary starts off with, I did it. I did it. I lived the life I wanted. And which is also what I want people to say. Like, whenever I die, if I die today,
Yeah.
I know that people will say, I mean, he lived, he did it.
Yeah.
It's sad, but he had a great life, and I want that for everyone. Like, it's not too late. It's as long as there's breath and we are conscious and able, it is not too late to turn that around.
Yeah, and I think I started thinking about my own obituary because of you, and I'm working on it. I haven't written pen to paper, but I there's a song. I'm not part of the Beehive. Just disclaimer: don't come for me, Beehive. I do appreciate her, but this album "For" by Beyonce is what made me a fan of her work. And in that album, there's a song entitled "I Was Here," and there's a line that says, well, I'll read two stanzas. It says, I was here, I lived, I loved, I was here, I did, I've done everything that I wanted, and it was more than I thought it would be. I will leave my mark so everyone would know that I was here. I want to say I lived each day until I died. I know that I had something in somebody's life. The hearts I've touched will be the proof that I leave, that I made a difference, and this world will see that I was here, that I lived, I loved, I was here. And that will be how I start my obituary. Quoting.
That's right. That's it. And what's great about that is that when I ask people that question of what's the last song you want to hear, because hearing is the last to go before we die. What's the last song you want to hear before you go? And so many people are like, I was here. And that's how I found that song.
Oh, really?
I'm like, oh, this is a beautiful song. Like that's it. That covers it.
Yeah. I
Uh,
was here
that's
and
a
now I'm
great
no
way to
longer
start it.
here. Yeah. But I remember answering that question. I didn't think of adding that song to that question that you asked in the Death Cafe, but I had said I Look to You by Whitney Houston. Because as a person of faith, I want that to be the soundtrack that helps me transition to the other side, and then I want my physical body to be cremated and thrown in a body of water in Miami where I was born, because I thought I want to be scattered where I began. I want it to be a full circle moment.
Yeah.
Darnell, one last question. There's a couple questions I couldn't get to because of interest of time, but I want to know, what do you hope to shift in society through your work?
I just want us to talk. I want us to have the conversations. I want to create a culture where this moment in our life and the lives of others, we approach it with so much grace and love, and we are able to hold each other through it. I grew up in a house that sometimes did that, if it was my grandma or my mom having these conversations. But no one else wanted to talk about it. I went to a school where if a student died, it was have a good day, go to the guidance counselor if you want.
Yeah.
And I want us to do better. I want us to plan better. Know that planning is love. I want us to die better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because that's also what makes dying with dignity possible.
Mm-hmm.
Shit is in order. I mean, you've inspired a whole Google Doc out of me of like for my business, for my personal life, how I want to be, what I want to be cremated, like when the fact that I want to be cremated, the fact that I want to be scattered in a body of water in Miami in particular, that I want all my belongings of value to go to charity, and that I want whatever book is unfinished that I may have been writing in the time of my death, I want that shit to get somehow published incompletely. Like,
okay.
I want that. Those are the things that I want in my wishes.
I love it.
Darnell, thank you so much for this offering that is Never to Say Goodbye, the life of a death doula, and an art of a peaceful end. And I wanted to tell people who are listening to this conversation or watching this conversation on YouTube, because it's a vodcast and a podcast, or we like to say a multi-platform series, that there is so much value in reading this book, and not just about how to die with dignity and how to plan for death, but this book is also about how to better live.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you get to the point of dying, you can look and say, I have no regrets.
Absolutely. It's about life. It's a book about life.
It's a book about life through the eyes and the prism and perspective of a death doula.
Yeah.
Which is probably the most ironic thing for me, because that wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And
good.
I picked up this book. And so I think that's what made it so beautiful for me too, is that there was so much nuance and more depth and more things about living well.
Mm-hmm.
Not just about dying well.
Yeah.
Thank you for this offering.
You so much.
Thank you for sharing parts of your story with us. Thank you for sharing other people's stories with us. I hope this is the first of many more books to come from you. I already told you this privately, that I think you need to be on more stages around the world talking about death and what it means to live well.
Show me the way. I'm trying to be like you. You show me the way.
I sent you that long ass voice memo. I'm a man of my word.
You said, I got the blueprint. So we're gonna make it happen.
I don't say things I don't mean, and I genuinely believe that. I think that you need to do more death cafes around the world, and you need to show people what's possible, when, especially for men of color and Black men in particular, when we dare to speak our truths and be vulnerable and let that be an act of love for our fellow brothers.
Yeah.
May this work continue to liberate people, not just in death, but in life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Y'all be sure to like, share, comment, all that good stuff. Because this podcast costs money to produce, and I need to make sure we get those listeners up. And if you haven't already, please, please, please leave a Google review. I'm gonna leave a Google review for his book right now. Today is on my to-do list. Make sure you buy a copy of his book. If you can buy directly from him or his website, please do that. If you have to order from a bookstore, please try to do an independent bookstore. Please don't do it from that, giant of a corporation that we won't name. And also book Darnell for your book clubs, for your college campuses, for your workplace. If you have someone who recently passed away, if you're dealing with grief in your communities and want to know how to better handle that, he's accepting bookings, y'all. He don't know this yet, but I'm his future agent. So he's accepting bookings. Let's go. Book Darnell. Darnell, thank you. Listen, continue to live well, continue to be well. Thank you so much for being my guest, my season 2 premiere guest.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored. Thank you.
Yes. Be well.